The last thing Ambassador Laron saw before his ship exploded was the human's smile. Calm, friendly, almost apologetic. In hindsight, the galaxy would come to recognize that as the worst possible warning sign. The last thing Ambassador Laron saw before his ship exploded was the human smile. Calm, friendly, almost apologetic. He had mistaken it for weakness. In the hours to come, an entire galaxy would learn otherwise. The news reached the Concordia in the middle of breakfast. Commander Elias Kane sat at the head of the captain's table, stirring cream into his coffee as if the universe wasn't about to tilt on its axis. Captain Imani Price slid the datapad across to him without a word. Kane read the headline once, twice, and set the pad down. "So," he said mildly, "they finally did it." Price folded her arms. "Confirmed. Council Hall. Neutral space. The ambassador and his entire staff gone. The Corthan delegation claims it was an accident." Kane's eyes flicked to the galactic star map hovering above the table. "Accident. Yes. Like I accidentally park an orbital railgun on someone's moon." Price waited for the burst of orders, the string of tactical commands she knew he kept locked behind his courteous tone. Instead, he took another sip. "You're very calm," she said. "Calm," Kane replied, "is what terrifies people more than shouting. Besides," he glanced at the map again, "the pieces are already in place." On the other side of known space, the Galactic Council was already in session. The Corthan ambassador, ZYRRN, stood before the chamber with his hands clasped, scales catching the light. "It was a diplomatic misstep," he insisted, his voice smooth as oil. "The humans will see reason. They are pragmatic creatures. Always talking. Always negotiating." A soft ripple of amusement moved through the chamber. Several delegates nodded knowingly. The human representative's chair sat empty, its absence like a quiet dare. An elder member of the Thalen race tapped his staff against the floor. "I advise restraint. Humans have a history, obscure though it may be. Their wars end poorly for those who start them." ZYRRN gave a toothy smile. "They will not start a war over one man." Aboard the Concordia, Kane drafted the first official communiqué to the galaxy. His voice was light, almost casual, as he dictated to the AI. "To all star systems within 100 light-years. We regret to inform you of a temporary inconvenience. Human vessels will be conducting fleet maneuvers in multiple sectors. For your safety, we recommend citizens remain indoors for approximately the rest of the month. We appreciate your cooperation." Price raised an eyebrow. "That's not a threat?" "It's a courtesy," Kane said. "Threats make people defiant. Courtesies make them wonder what's coming." The Corthans did not wonder. They laughed. In Corthan Fleet Command, admirals examined the human fleet registry and saw nothing alarming. Yes, humans had warships, but their last major conflict was decades ago. They were a species of traders, scientists, explorers, not conquerors. "What will they do?" one asked. "Send a few ships in protest? Perhaps blockade a shipping lane?" 3 days later, every deep space sensor on the Corthan border lit up. 700,000 human warships moved in perfect formation, their wake like the shadow of an approaching storm. Carriers, destroyers, missile frigates. Ships named after battles from 1,000 years of Earth's history. On Concordia's command deck, Price stared at the tactical display. "They've been mobilized for weeks," she said slowly. Kane smiled. "Good observation. You knew this was coming." "I suspected," Kane said. "I was simply waiting for them to hand us the paperwork." Kane convened a briefing for the alien observers aboard Concordia. ZYRRN was among them, having been ordered by the Council to monitor the situation, a polite way of saying stall the humans if possible. The briefing room's holoprojector flared to life, displaying 3 star systems in rotating blue. Supply chains, logistics hubs, and jump routes lit up like arteries in a living body. "Here's the problem," Kane began. "You think we're going to charge in guns blazing. That's what you do. We don't. We start with the blood supply. Cut it off, the body collapses before the first shot." ZYRN shifted in his seat. "An effective, if a clinical, approach." "Clinical," Kane agreed. "Like surgery. Only instead of saving the patient, we're removing a tumor." "And if the patient resists?" Kane smiled without warmth. "Then we perform a full extraction." By evening, alien news feeds were filled with grainy images. Human fleets at the edge of Corthan space, their hulls glinting like teeth. Civilian worlds began hoarding supplies. Traffic on refugee routes tripled. Price found Kane in his ready room, staring out at the stars. "You could still negotiate," she said. Kane didn't look at her. "We are negotiating. We're just doing it in a language they'll understand." "And that is—" He turned, the same polite smile on his face that Ambassador Laron had worn in his final moments. "Finality." Hours later, the Corthans sent a message to the Concordia. Zuerarin's voice was clipped, his earlier smugness gone. "We request a meeting to discuss terms." "Of course," Kane replied. "I'll bring coffee." ZYRRN hesitated. "Coffee." "A human tradition," Kane said. "Something warm to drink before we take everything else away." The first pieces were moving. And in the quiet space between stars, the galaxy began to understand. Humanity wasn't coming for revenge. They were coming for control. The Galactic Council Chamber was a theater of voices, some smug, some strained, some whispering like conspirators at a wake. Zuerarin of the Corthan delegation stood tall, the faint metallic sheen of his scales catching the ceiling's light. "I have spoken with Commander Kane," he told the assembly. His words were polite. Politeness means negotiation. The humans have no interest in total war. From the Thalen benches came a slow, dry cough. Elder Vroth leaned forward, his pale eyes fixed on ZYRRN. "You confuse politeness with mercy. They are not the same. Do you know why they smile so much?" ZYRRN raised a ridged brow. "Habit." "No," Vroth said. "It's so you will not see the teeth." Aboard the Concordia, Captain Imani Price was briefing alien observers on the situation. The holo-display showed the Corthan border, red lines, blinking nodes, ships fanning into position. "This is not a defensive screen," she explained. "It's a surgical perimeter. Every fleet group has an assigned supply route. Every route has redundancy. They're ready to sustain combat for months without resupply from home." An Ivorin delegate frowned. "But humans are scattered. Your fleet cannot have reached this size without straining your economy." Price's tone stayed even. "Our economy was built for this." In fleet operations, Kane was pacing slowly, hands behind his back, voice carrying just enough to draw every ear. "We won't strike their capital first. We'll take their support worlds. Their shipyards. We don't have to outgun them everywhere, we just have to make them run out of food, parts, and hope." The Ivorin tilted his head. "Why not simply bombard them into submission?" Kane smiled. "Because if you do it right, they surrender before you fire the last shot. Efficient. And efficiency," he added, "is just cruelty wearing a suit." 3 human fleets advanced on the Corthan supply corridor at 0900. Not a single shot was fired. Instead, they began training maneuvers directly across trade routes. The Corthan merchants called for escorts. The escorts found themselves shadowed by human destroyers. Insurance firms raised premiums overnight. Cargo stopped moving. Kane watched the data scroll across his desk. Trade flows down by 40% in 12 hours. Lovely. Let's double that. Back at the council, the political temperature shifted. The younger races argued for sanctions, not military intervention. The elder powers stayed silent, watching, calculating. Vroth finally broke the quiet. They are cutting your legs, Zyrn. And you haven't noticed yet that you're already falling. Zyrn's mouth curled in annoyance. Our fleets are assembling. They will die, Vroth said flatly. I have seen this before. Not with humans, but with predators like them. The smile is only the skin over the knife. 2 days into the maneuvers, Kane summoned Price to his ready room. They're moving ships into the Coronexus, Price reported. They think we're vulnerable there. Good, Kane said. Let them believe it. She frowned. You left it open on purpose? Of course. They can't resist a target that looks undefended. He leaned forward, fingers tapping a star map. Once they commit their fleet there, we close the door behind them. Hard. Price exhaled. That's not a battle. That's an execution. Kane's eyes held no apology. Exactly. The trap was patient work. Civilian traffic in the Coronexus accidentally broadcast unencrypted messages about minimal human presence. Recon drones malfunctioned, leaking harmless scans to Corthan spies. The bait glittered, irresistible. While the Corthans prepared their strike, human carriers slipped into deep orbit behind them, silent as shadows. On the 4th day, Zyrn received a private message from Kane. To my esteemed colleague, I hear your fleets are moving. I wish them the best of luck. Do remind them to wave when they pass by. Cordially, Commander Elias Kane. Vern read it twice. This man is mocking me. Vroth shook his head. No. He is giving you a chance to stop walking into his jaws. The Corthans didn't stop. Fleet Command ordered a full push into the Coronexus. Kane let them cross the threshold without resistance. Then, at 0300 hours, the door closed. Human carriers dropped cloak, releasing fighter swarms into the Corthans' rear guard. Mines sealed the jump corridor. The enemy fleet was trapped. Price stood beside Kane on the bridge. You're not ordering the kill. They're panicking, Kane said. They'll burn fuel, waste munitions, exhaust their crews trying to break out. We'll wait until they're desperate. Then we'll ask if they'd like to talk over coffee. In Corthan space, civilians began hoarding food. Governors issued ration orders. Markets spiked in panic. Trade convoys diverted to neutral sectors, unwilling to risk human maneuvers. The council convened in emergency session. Zyrn's voice cracked with frustration. They are waging war without declaring it. This is dishonorable. Vrotha's reply was ice. They declared it when you killed their diplomat. This is the part where they sharpen the knife. By the end of the week, the Corthan supply corridor was dead. Human warships held every jump point. Kane's fleets remained in perfect formation, unmoving, like predators guarding a kill. On Concordia, Price handed him the latest intelligence packet. Council chatter says they think you're bluffing. That you won't escalate. Kane poured himself a fresh cup of coffee. Then let's encourage that thought. Right up until the moment we don't. In the cold between stars, the storm was still building. But its edges were visible now, curling black and heavy on the horizon. And for the first time in generations, the galaxy began to feel small. The Coronexus looked calm from orbit. Stars glittered, trade lanes lay empty, and the jump corridor shimmered faintly in the void. But calm was the wrong word. Calm meant safety. This was silence, the kind that waits for a pulse to stop. On the bridge of the Concordia, Captain Imani Price studied the tactical overlay. The Corthan fleet sat boxed in, their formation tightening with every passing hour. They're not moving, she said. They can't, Kane replied, hands clasped behind his back. If they push, they hit our mines. If they hold, they starve. An ensign at communications spoke up. Incoming transmission from the Corthan flagship. They request direct negotiation. Kane's voice was mild. Decline. Politely. Tell them I'm busy arranging furniture. Price smirked. Furniture? He glanced at her. Fleet placement is interior design with consequences. By mid-cycle, the Corthans tried their first breakout. A wedge of destroyers surged toward the eastern corridor, weapons hot. Human cruisers fell back deliberately, letting the enemy believe the lane was open. Then, at 20,000 kilometers, the cruisers split formation, revealing the carrier Hellespont floating in silent drift. 100 fighters poured from its bays, forming a glittering wall. The Corthans fired. Shields flared, hull plating screamed, but the fighters didn't break. Instead, they sliced through the wedge's flank, severing engines and gutting command decks. The survivors limped back toward their main fleet, chased by railgun rounds. Price didn't cheer. She simply said, 200 enemy casualties. Minimal losses on our side. Kane nodded. Send them a message. You're running out of ships faster than we're running out of coffee. Hours later, the Galactic Council watched grainy footage of the failed breakout. The younger races muttered that humans were overextending. The elder powers exchanged glances that said they knew better. Vroth spoke only once. They are tightening the noose. The next push came at 0300 hours. 3 Corthan battlecruisers leading a diversionary attack at the northern corridor. Human destroyers met them head-on, trading salvos in brilliant arcs of plasma. The Concordia did not move. From his command seat, Kane monitored the feed without blinking. They're probing, he said. They still think this is about territory. Price glanced over. Isn't it? Territory is what they'll lose, Kane said. What we want is their calendar. The Council's spy networks had already whispered of a coming Corthan summit, an annual military alignment where their fleets consolidated for resource planning. Kane knew if he timed his strikes right, the Corthan Navy wouldn't just lose ships, they'd lose the ability to coordinate for the entire year. This is why, he told Price quietly, we've let them live this long. We want them committed when the knife drops. At dawn cycle, Kane ordered the first real strike. Fleet Group Delta, jump to coordinates Theta 7, he said. Burn the dockyards there. Leave the civilians untouched. The orders rolled out like scripture. Across 3 sectors, human fleets moved in silent coordination. The Corthan Command discovered too late that Theta 7 wasn't just a dockyard, it was their primary heavy-lift assembly line. Without it, their capital ships would remain unfinished for years. Price leaned over the tactical table. That's their industrial heart. Kane's answer was soft. And now it's just an empty hull in space. The Corthans, cornered and furious, hurled their remaining strike wings at the Nexus perimeter. The largest engagement yet unfolded, fighters darting like sparks, cruisers exchanging point-blank broadsides. Kane didn't raise his voice once. Orders left his mouth with the precision of chess moves. Wing 6, rotate to intercept. Group 9, push them into the corridor. Lock it. Now. Within an hour, the Corthan vanguard was gone, either crippled, dead, or drifting. The survivors fell back to their flagship. ZYRN's voice cracked over the secure channel. Commander Kane, this must stop. We will negotiate. Kane sipped his coffee before replying. ZYRN, you misunderstand. We are negotiating. This is what the conversation looks like when you start it with a murder. That night cycle, Price joined Kane in the observation deck. The stars stretched in cold silence. You've kept them alive longer than I expected, she said. They need to believe they can still win, Kane replied. Desperation makes them commit their reserves. And when they do... He trailed off, letting the sentence hang like the black between galaxies. The Council's private channels hummed with panic. Corthan governors demanded relief fleets from allies who had no interest in joining the fight. Neutral powers began withdrawing ambassadors from Corthan space. One younger race, the Felra, sent a discreet message to Kane. "If we supply you with their fleet movement data, will you spare our colonies?" Kane's reply was immediate. "You were never on the list." On the 5th day of the siege, Kane finally gave the order that would end the Corthan fleet in the Nexus. "All groups," he said, "collapse the box." The mines were triggered first, blossoms of light sealing escape routes. Carriers disgorged wave after wave of bombers, their torpedoes ripping through weakened shields. Cruisers advanced in a tightening spiral, railguns chewing through hulls. Corthan comms lit with distress calls. One by one, their icons winked out from the tactical display. When the firing stopped, nothing moved in the Nexus but human ships. Price stepped to Kane's side. Objective complete. No survivors in fighting condition. Kane's voice was almost gentle. "Send word to the Council. The corridor is secure. We'll be moving deeper soon." Price studied him for a moment. This wasn't just retribution, was it? He finally turned to face her. No. This was the opening act. The War Council chamber of the Imperial Accord had never been silent before. Normally, it hummed with the pompous chatter of hundreds of alien delegates, each trying to sound smarter than the last. Today, the air was heavy enough to crush bone. At the center of the room stood Admiral Marcus Kane. He didn't stand like an alien commander. No rigid ceremonial posture. No sweeping gestures. He just stood there, relaxed, hands clasped loosely behind his back, gaze drifting over the crowd like he was deciding what to order for lunch. Only the humans could pull off looking harmless and predatory in the same breath. A Keltari delegate broke the silence first. His voice trembled. "You have brought a vast force, Admiral Kane. Surely this is..." Kane's smile was easy. "We brought exactly what was necessary." The Keltari glanced at the hollow projection in the center of the chamber. 700,000 human warships. Not transports, not scouts. Ships designed to end civilizations. A force larger than any in recorded galactic history. Necessary. The Zytherian warlord's voice was a snarl. Over a single diplomat? Kane's eyes met his, calm and unblinking. That diplomat's name was Evelyn Shaw. She was here for peace talks. She came unarmed, without an escort. You slit her throat in your council chambers because you thought it would send a message. He let the words hang for a moment. Message received. A few aliens shifted in their seats, glancing at the exits as if they could outrun what was outside. The Vree Chancellor tried diplomacy. "Admiral, surely there can be a..." "Let me tell you a story," Kane interrupted, still smiling. "On Earth, there's a species of ant called the bullet ant. Tiny. Harmless, until you cross its nest. Then, every ant in the colony comes for you. Not because they're angry. Because you touched one of theirs." He paused. "Humans are a lot like bullet ants. Only, we have nuclear weapons. And faster-than-light travel." Laughter rippled uneasily around the chamber, but Kane didn't join it. His eyes were cold steel. The hollow projector flickered, showing tactical overlays of the Accord's fleet positions. Kane began to walk in slow, measured circles, speaking almost conversationally. "Here's the thing you don't understand about humans. We don't do proportional responses. We don't play fair. And we never forgive an unprovoked kill on one of ours." He tapped a sector on the map. "This system here? Gone in 8 minutes if I give the order." "You wouldn't dare," the Zytherian warlord began. "Try me," Kane said, without raising his voice. The chamber's tension was electric now, like the moment before a storm breaks. Kane continued. "Evelyn Shaw was more than a diplomat. She was a friend. She was a teacher. She had a laugh that made people forget they were supposed to be enemies. And she believed, truly believed, that the galaxy could be better. He stopped pacing, his voice dropping just enough to make everyone lean forward. She also carried with her the signed, sealed terms of an alliance between Earth and the Accord. You could have had us as partners. Instead, he gestured to the image of the massive human fleet outside their borders. You get this. From the far side of the chamber, the Rylok's representative finally spoke. What are your terms, Admiral? Kane looked at him, and the smile returned, but it was sharper now, like a blade hidden in velvet. My terms? You surrender. Full disarmament. All warships in your fleets turned over to Earth Command. The individuals who ordered Evelyn's death will be tried on human soil. If they survive the trial, maybe we'll even let them live in a cell with indoor plumbing. The Ryloks hissed. That's not negotiation. That's conquest. Correct, Kane said pleasantly. Silence again. And then the trap sprang. From the chamber's upper balconies, human operatives uncloaked, sleek black armor, weapons raised. Not a single alien had sensed their presence until now. Kane didn't look up. While you've been sitting here deciding whether you're going to stand firm, every one of your shipyard command crews has been relocated. Our Marines boarded them 3 hours ago. Your fleets belong to us already. The Zytherian warlord surged to his feet. This is an act of war? You declared that when you killed her, Kane said. This is me concluding it. The doors to the chamber sealed with a deep mechanical thud. Every alien felt the subtle shift of environmental control as human tech integrated into the building systems. The message was clear. They weren't leaving until Kane said so. Some of you are wondering if we'd really go through with it, Kane said, stepping back into the center. Let me save you the suspense. We already did. While you were arguing over semantics, our fleet took control of your outer colonies. We now own your food distribution routes, your fuel depots, and your faster-than-light relays. The Accord doesn't exist anymore. You work for us now. He let that sink in. The Vree Chancellor's voice was a whisper. Why tell us all this? Kane's eyes softened just a fraction. Because you need to understand something about humans. We'll shake hands and share a drink with anyone. But the moment you hurt one of ours, we stop being nice. And there's no galaxy big enough to hide from us. Then the steel returned to his gaze. Now, sign the surrender, or I'll show you what happens when I stop being polite. One by one, trembling hands reached for the data slates. The war was over before it began. Kane walked out of the chamber without looking back. His comm pinged with an incoming message. It was from Earth Command. Status. He typed back. Negotiations concluded. Accord leadership has agreed to terms. He paused, then added. Evelyn would have hated this. But she'd have understood. And with that, the Admiral stepped onto the shuttle that would take him back to the flagship. Outside, 700,000 warships waited for his word. They didn't need to fire a single shot. But everyone in the galaxy now understood the truth. Humans weren't the most dangerous because of their weapons. They were dangerous because they smiled when they told you what they were about to do.